we got them.
Okay, great. All right, guys, look, apologies again from that. Naturally, as I'm sure you can appreciate, it's quite frustrating, but thankfully we're here, and thank you for attending. Welcome to our first Hard Hat AI event. What we're going to be looking to do is run a series of monthly webinars and explore the world of AI and its impact it's having on construction. With each session, I'll be looking to bring in a new guest who's an expert in tech and AI and utilize the information they bring and take that to the construction industry. The aim being to enhance the delivery capabilities of construction companies in the UK and therefore positively impact the careers of people that I work with. So how did we come about with this idea? Well, while speaking with my clients and hiring plans, I took it upon myself to ask customers what they knew about AI and really what their company were doing to implement any change. Although people knew what AI was, it's a hot topic. Every single one that I've spoken to hadn't actually seen any practical AI implementation by any of the leadership. They all wanted to know a bit more, but they didn't know how to change this within this own company. The problem we have is that there's just loads of noise about AI. I've spoken to a few people who have been on a few AI seminars and felt that coming out of it, they didn't really get anything from it. If you haven't woken up to this yet, this is your first time talking to somebody in this area, we are in an AI revolution. It is affecting every sector, every company. Recruitment is actually quite at the forefront of this. It's one of the sort of sectors that's really taken the lead, and we're seeing a lot of implementation, a lot of change in the sector. Construction is behind. So I had the plan to change this, to speak to the AI people that I'm dealing with in my business and bring them to the construction industry. And that's what leads us here today. So today we have Dylan Humphreys presenting. Dylan is actually a personal friend. He's a true AI expert. And although I'll let him give you his credentials himself, I can say from experience that Dylan has been a game changer for me. Having him in our corner for Pro Build has been revolutionary. So I'd say, Dylan, what we've been talking about AI for 2 years now, I'd say.
Certainly, yeah, possibly 2.5, in fact.
And although probably been using AI and automation, particularly throughout that period, I'd say that there's been a real impact from January. That's when it clicked into place, where we've seen the models really get up to speed, and we can actually create things that work 100% of the time and accurately and personalized. I say that I've still got a way to go in AI, but I already feel that now as a two-man business, we're having the same impact and operating at the level when we had 6 employees. But the plans we've got, that really could be bigger anytime soon now. And that's what we're seeing in recruitment. Smaller companies are winning. We're seeing companies that can move quickly, that can change, eat the share of the larger companies who are bigger and not able to pivot as quick as businesses. So look, let me hand you over to Dylan. Let him give you his view on the impact of AI and how we can take all this noise from the hype we're hearing to the profit in construction. Look, we hopefully have a question time at the end. But if you have anything along the journey, just pop your questions in the comment section. They are coming through. The aim today is to take about 35-40 minutes. So we still got time to make sure we get through everything. And again, thanks for your patience, guys. Over to you, Dylan.
Thank you, Elliot. Appreciate it, mate. Okay, so we best get cracking. So I'm Dylan. I've been in the technology space now for 25 years, going on, possibly even more. But for the last 2.5 years, I've been talking to organizations, to institutions, and to individuals about how we can collectively leverage AI, right, and really sort of ride this wave. I've spoken. Sorry, I've got too far into it and I've forgotten to advance the slides. Right. Anyway, that's me, if you can't tell, looking slightly smarter. But I've spoken across the UK. I've spoken internationally, in fact, on this very thing, specifically talking about AI literacy and how that fits in to organizational capability around AI. So it's a big passion for me. I sort of very much consider it something that every person almost on the planet needs to know about this. So the more people that know about it, the more prepared they're going to be for the future. And also it means that we can create some absolutely amazing things together. So just before we get too deeply into it, sorry, Elliot, perhaps we want to cut this now. I was going to hand off to Elliot. Elliot, do you want to do your slide, mate, and just tell us a bit about you?
Yeah, so I think it's important to understand what we've done in recruitment. Really, there's a massive amount of change I mentioned earlier on the section, and seeing the change firsthand, I can see what difference AI within a business can actually produce. So, look, I just thought I'd give you an actual opinion of what we've done and how we could do it. So, in recruitment, a lot of what we sort of challenged around is candidate outreach. So we've created we've created a job marketing agent. What that means is that we put together all the material we have and we refine that down to a process that comes out swiftly. And now it takes me 10 minutes to do about 4 hours work. It's very, very easy. We've then created an outreach program that allows us to use GPT that we've created to be able to message and keep in contact with candidates throughout that. That's then being utilized within a 9-stage outreach program that's so slick now. It's like having a resource on my right hand side for every single job that I've got. We've also not just sort of created products, but we've also purchased quite a few off the shelf products, one being a brand new ATS that allows us to search and to match candidates a lot quicker than we have done in the past. It allows us to effectively have a Tinder of construction where we can go yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. It's fantastic. Anybody who's going back to the days of CVs in the post, CVs in faxes, it's mind blowing. And then we utilize it for social scaling. A lot of you are here because of LinkedIn and some of the content that we put out there and our ability to find that information, bring it to the audience. We've absolutely ramped up our capabilities in that as well. So hopefully you guys enjoy the stuff that we're bringing.
Excellent. Thanks, Elliot. I am unmuted. Right, wonderful. Okay, so this is why we're here. Key date, 30th of November 2022. This is when ChatGPT was released and is arguably why we're all here now and talking about it. Now, AI existed before this, okay? In fact, we were all and still are subject to AI in one form or another. And this could be anything from when you renew your insurance, okay? Very often we're put through some kind of algorithm to kind of check what kind of, what kind of risk we might be. So it's been used extensively and we've all been subject to its decisions, if you like. But the thing that changed when ChatGPT was released was that it was made available to sort of the world at large, if you like. So before this, you really needed, a degree in data science, certainly some programming knowledge, and a lot of other skills besides in order to leverage this technology. Now you don't. They just made it available to anybody who cared to sign up and type some stuff into it. So that's really why we're here. As that tweet implies, so this was early 23, Sam Altman, I think, captures this quite nicely, paraphrasing Alan Watts. If you think you understand the impact of AI, you do not understand and have yet to be instructed. If you know that you don't understand, then you truly understand. And that sounds a bit paradoxical, but what that's trying to get across is that we really need to approach this with a beginner's mind, okay? That what we know about what computers can do and how we interact with them has very much been turned on its head, and now just everything's different, okay? So that is how I'd like you to approach this. There's a lot of chatter out there about what AI can do, what it can't do, what things it's really bad at, various things. Trying to put that to one side for now, because what we're trying to do here is just give you sort of a ground truth, if you like. So first of all, the scary slide, right? This is what's at stake, and I genuinely believe this. Okay, these are all, you might recognize them as companies that all failed to adapt. When there was some kind of seismic change in their respective industries. Blockbuster, of course, they actually, the real reason they went was because they didn't want to lose their very lucrative late fees. That was one of the main reasons that they didn't want to do the whole copy what Netflix were doing, which was delivering these videos and DVDs by post. Nokia, I believe their cardinal mistake was assuming that nobody would want to browse the internet on phones. So they got pushed to the wayside. Toys R Us, of course, famously were late to embrace e-commerce. BlackBerry, more recently, they felt that everybody would want a physical keyboard on their device versus not. So they unfortunately also went to the wayside. But I think the most notable of all of these, of course, is Kodak. And I'm sure we've heard the stories. They did actually invent digital photography, but they were very reluctant to lose their lucrative film business. So these various lessons from history, and a lot more, obviously, that have failed to adapt at times of sort of disruptive change, so to speak. But this helps sort of focus the mind and understand what's at stake. One thing that McKinsey have actually said, or at least they've predicted, is this concept that in high competitive markets, if you have one company who are leveraging AI and one company that are not, the gap could get so large that actually it would be impossible to catch up, right? As a laggard, so to speak. So there is, very real consequences here to not treating this with the seriousness and the seriousness that it requires. So the key takeaway there is really not embracing AI is not an option. Okay. So where does AI at the moment fit in with the building blocks of work? And I suppose the elephant in the room here is AI going to come along and take my job? From what I've seen, visiting these customers, going to see them, understanding what the roles are, and then seeing what AI can do to help them. From what I've seen is that we are very much at a stage of augmentation versus replacement. Okay. So you need to think of AI as something to help you do your job versus replace you doing your job. There are, I think there are some exceptions to this, but in the main, and if we look at Klarna, so Klarna, I think it was early 23, the CEO of Klarna basically declared that he was going to lay off a load of staff and replace their function with AI bots, essentially. Klarna, for those of you who don't know, are a fintech company. They do the whole, buy now, pay later sort of thing. And Klarna had a lot of customer support agents who were having to resolve problems, and the CEO sort of saw what AI could do, and decided that he didn't need all these staff and got rid of them. What recently has happened, as it says there, customer satisfaction in their customer support desk absolutely plummeted. Okay, so there is very much a need for human oversight in anything that AI does, and that's not only to protect from reputational damage, but it's just, as we've probably all heard, AI can and does get things wrong. Okay, so these are these hallucinations that we've heard about. So very much think of AI as a co-pilot or an assistant, but not a replacement. So just to hammer this point home and help you understand where AI can really help, what I've done is I've kind of created this scale. So if we think of a job or a role as a collection of duties, and that duties are split into processes, and processes consist of tasks, which are down here. Okay, so a task is almost like the atomic unit of any particular job. Now this changes. I've put this flag here as AI is here, so it's somewhere between being it can comprehensively automate most tasks. Okay, it's on the cusp of being able to automate processes through agents, but in the main, it's not quite there yet, and certainly not there without human oversight. This isn't something that you just want to set going and then not have to worry about. Now that varies depending on the job, because I mean, using extreme examples, and obviously all you guys are related to construction in some way. We can't yet ask an AI to build a stud wall, but we can. If there are any marketers here, we could, for example, say, I want you to create marketing copy for this particular purpose, and it would do it. So, what I'm saying is where this marker is really depends on the job, but as an average, this is where I see AI sort of delivering the most value and being the most reliable. So as you might imagine, due to the number of companies that I've spoken to, the number of people as well that I speak to on weekly sort of hackathon webinars, I see a lot of duplication in terms of, I see a lot of patterns emerging, if you like, in terms of what most businesses can leverage more day one with the right tools. So one thing that we do see is, if you've got, for example, using the market, say a marketing agency, the marketing example, now companies are able to do a lot more of the copy in-house and perhaps only farm out the sort of the layout and the branding out to their marketing agency. So there's an opportunity there for reduced costs when it comes to agency costs. There is just generally reduced time for content creation. A key example of that is actually one of my own, which is I was talking to a prospective customer about creating a bot for their website. And previously, I would have had to have, written notes on the meeting, taken that away, turned it into a sales proposal, sent that off to them, waited for it to come back. Using an AI transcription service and ChatGPT, I was able to just take the transcription, put it into ChatGPT, say, give me a sales proposal based on this, this, and this. It gave me it. I was able to make a few changes. I think normally it would have taken me probably days. But in this case, it took me like 20 minutes from start to finish. And the proposal was sent to the customer, which eventually worked, and I got the order. So that was great. But that to me was a real eye-opener in terms of the potential that can be gained here. The third example that we see a lot is sort of reduced onboarding time for new hires. So, if you have thick company manuals, for example, or lots of HR policies you need people to go through, a bot is very much just chat to my data type applications are really useful in this situation. And actually, what you'll see is that chat to my data applications are actually really scalable, because if you think about it, you could do it for your HR department, you can do it for IT support, you can do it for customer service if you're careful with it, right? So there's lots of different applications for that, and they're really easy to do the right tools. How are we doing for time, Elliot? Not too bad. Okay. So obviously, again, I appreciate you guys mostly in construction. I do have some customers who are in the construction industry. I've seen all of these work wonders, especially in terms of, as it says there, the cost forecasting and QS support. A lot of these are very much about mining existing data. Okay. But the key thing here is that in the past, we've had to have, say, dashboards, properly formatted information. Generative AI, which is what we're dealing with, is absolutely brilliant at looking at unstructured data and just extracting sort of insight from it. So it's no longer a case that we need to have these sort of really well maintained sort of data stores. We can just copy paste information in that we know is vaguely to do with what we want, and it can essentially generate some really interesting insights. So all of these, like I say, the cost forecasting and QS support, documentation, contractual automation. I'll go into a bit more on that on the next slide. Figuring out actually if we do tender for this project, is it something that we're going to do really well, or is it perhaps best that we let this tender slide? And also scheduling and material management. Sorry, I know you have a name for that, but I'm struggling to remember it off the top of my head. Preliminaries. There we go. So lots of examples there.
Dylan, can I just cut in here, pal? One of the things that we hear is, I've put a couple of posts on socials about this, that there are softwares out there, or there are ways of speeding up the estimating process, as an example. How accurate are you seeing the AI these days? Because the usual message we get is it's 80% accurate, but that's probably not quite accurate enough. Am I right in saying that these softwares or the AI models are actually getting there close to 100% now, or what are you seeing?
I don't think they'll ever get to 100%. I think that this is why human oversight is so important, because it can create stuff and it can make stuff up. Essentially, there is always that danger. But this is one of the reasons why, and we'll get to this slide later, AI literacy is so important, because that then teaches us that actually, as part of the process, we do have human oversight. We keep what's called a human in the loop. And the quality of it, if you like, is, the QA is built into the process. So people who know can look at this and go, yeah, that looks okay. That is delivering accurate results, if you like. And when it doesn't, obviously that's when things need to be flagged. But I think that to sort of say, okay, it's only correct 80% of the time, is kind of throwing the baby out with the bathwater, if that makes sense. It's only going to get better. I think that's a key takeaway here, is that however good you've seen AI models be, this is the worst they will ever be. They're only going to get better from here on out. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, we're still, from my experience using AI, we're still in the process where it's never going to be able to complete the job, but the time we save allows us to do that. I guess, the pushback that we see from talking with people on the ground is that, well, if you've got to double check it, if you've got to go again, how much time is it actually going to save? And I think that may be a barrier to entry with AI in construction.
It could be, and it's not the same for all roles. You're right. I've come across use cases where it's a case of, well, if I have to check it, I might as well just do it, and sometimes that's true. But I've seen vastly more instances where it's just a case of, that has saved the person hours and hours worth of time. Which, funnily enough, is I can cover a bit more on this slide here. So I've worked with Clancy Construction over in Ireland, and they had this top one, actually was kind of like their main pain point, and they were always trying to match up the invoices with the delivery dockets for materials being delivered to site. Now, I know a lot of the time, this information just simply wasn't getting back to the people in administration back at the main office. So they were spending a lot of time picking up phones, trying to talk to people. Was this delivered? Was it all there? And of course, as time goes on, more and more time between when it was delivered and when they're trying to reconcile all of this, the less chances they've got of actually getting the real story. So we set them up a system which essentially, once the delivery dockets, if you like, are scanned at site, they just end up in a sort of like a virtual bucket, and then the AI just sorts them all out and says, okay, that's for that site, that's for that site, this is what this is, and it matches them up to the invoice, and that saves them hours and hours a week in matching up those things. So that was a big win. This was another, when they are trying to put in the details of the subcontractors into the contract documentation. Again, it was all a copy and paste job. Okay, so again, just using using AI's sort of human level fuzzy logic, we were able to go, okay, here's the CVs, here's the contract, just transpose those details in, and it was able to do it. So lots and lots of examples here. And these are all kind of varying in terms of how much technical overhead there is, if you like. So this top one, oops, sorry, where are we? Back there. So that top one there, it was sort of like technically quite onerous, but some of these other ones were actually just a prompt in a model. So it was literally just asking the model to do it, and it went ahead and did it. So I've tried to give a different, just an idea there of the sorts of things that are actually being automated in real construction companies.
Were these, so you created these for the customer effectively, or was it off the shelf products you could get?
Actually, a couple of those they created themselves just because they were able to.
Okay.
But
right.
It gives you an idea of the sorts of things that are doable.
Fine. Similar to us. I do a bit, and then when I struggle, I call you.
That's the one. That's the one. Okay. So this is sort of like a roadmap, a very rough sort of 1,000-foot view roadmap, if you like, of how you might integrate AI into your organization as it's a combination of sort of top down and bottom up. So as you might imagine, buy-in from the C-suite is very, very important. But it all really starts with AI literacy. Okay. So, this step number one is that AI literacy is absolutely key. Okay. Without people understanding what AI in its current form is capable of, what tools they can go to actually sort of try things out. When AI use is appropriate, that's another key thing. And generally, we recommend that companies have something called an AI policy to set that out. But this is all absolutely necessary, including carving out time so that people can actually experiment with it in a safe environment is absolutely key to getting a company's AI capability to the next level. So that really happens here. Okay. When we get to strategic implementation, this is more about analyzing where the quick wins are and then working sort of, if you imagine a scale of sort of, there'll be low hanging fruit, which is stuff that's easy to automate, but doesn't necessarily, might not save you days a month. Yeah, it might only save you minutes a day, which all add up. But the smaller tasks tend to provide less returns in terms of time savings. But then you can figure what those issues are, these problems, you can surface them, and through that process you can understand what the big ticket items are, and that is exactly how we arrived at some of these. So in Clancy's case, I think preliminary items cost estimator based on previous projects, that was as simple as packaging together some of the spreadsheets from previous projects and putting it into this model and then asking it to make predictions. Whereas this one up here was involved code and setting up infrastructure. So it saved more time, but obviously is a bit harder to implement. So that's where this happens. That happens in this stage here. Stage 3, going to scale and optimize. I think what people need to keep in mind is that this is an ongoing process. This isn't like, oh, we're now AI capable, we can just sit back and relax. It will kind of get to that stage in the same way that, we're all now familiar with Microsoft Office, for example, right? Everybody takes it for granted that you're going to go into a company and you're going to have access to some kind of Office suite. And I think that's the same is to be for AI. And it's going to be, well, yes, this is the company AI and this is what we do. But fundamentally, given what's going on with the models and their capabilities, this is always going to be a learning journey of some description. So that's sort of like 1,000-foot view. If we sort of like zoom back in to what the next steps really need to be, as it says there, building AI literacy is absolutely essential for everybody. Fundamentally, this is really a change management problem, right? So I would expect that you're going to have your early adopters, you're going to have your early majority, you're going to have your late majority, and your laggards. So keep that in mind and treat it the same. But if we just define for a second what AI literacy is, I think the most important concept is understanding how this AI that we have now is different to the AI we had before. So really, it's down to search versus generative. We need to understand what models are and how they're helpful, and what their limitations are. Hallucinations is one. RAG, without RAG, retrieval augmented generation models they're not entirely useless, but they are not very useful for doing real work. Okay, so we definitely need to know about retrieval augmented generation. Prompting, of course, is how we ask the model to do things. One key thing, actually, going back to the beginning slide when I said it's really changed on its head what we think about computers. And if you think about what this is doing, up until now, we've had to know that Excel requires us to click in a certain place and type in certain things to understand that we want to add that row of columns, that row of figures or whatever. But what generative AI is giving us is the ability to be able to just sort of speak to our computers or type or whatever format that might be in the spoken or written language, and to have it understand us. So now the computer is adjusting to how we communicate versus the other way around. And I think that's the key thing. So I suppose that's kind of disproving my point in the sense that, well, you should be able to just say what you want and you'll get it. But actually, there are certain hacks and techniques which will get you better results than others. So that's why prompting is important. Bots, understanding what they are, when to use them. And now, of course, we also have agents, which Sam Altman has said that 2025 is the year of agents. Again, it's yet to be seen, I think, but they are definitely going to be a thing. And understanding the difference between those and bots is key. So what that all fits into, and the reason that's so important, is because the AI literacy of any given person is foundational to the AI capability, of the organization. All right. And I've defined AI capability sort of crudely as this formula here, which is AI literacy, which we've just gone through, multiplied by purpose. So that's, well, where are we going to apply it? What are we trying to do with AI in the first place? Multiplied by the tools, multiplied by the data. So I'm not sure if you guys can see that sort of unadulterated, because on my screen it's got a little sort of slide control here. But what that says is crucial point. If any of these components, so if your AI literacy is 0, if your purpose is 0, if your tools or data is 0, the whole thing is 0, right? Okay, so you have to have something. You have to have some capability in all of these. You have to have some understanding of what each of these should be. Okay, so sorry, bear with me. I'm just gonna bring up a point here, which is really going to help you understand this. That's it. Here it is. So the key thing is that when all these elements, the literacy, the purpose, the tools, and the data, when all of those are aligned, organizations, they can truly start to harness the power of AI in a way that's sustainable and directly tied to business goals. Okay. And you can think of this as like a holistic approach, which ensures that you're not just adopting AI for the sake of it or because it's what everybody else is doing, but you're really driving meaningful innovation and sort of staying competitive in the market, because that's really what we're aiming for. So, first steps, empowering your team with AI literacy. I'm going to skip over that just purely because I think we're running out of time. What we have put together is our free AI Opportunity Explorer. Okay, if you scan this QR code, it will take you through to a form. You plug in some details. It will give you a link to this spreadsheet. And what this spreadsheet is designed to do is to help you really with this section here, where you kind of identify the sort of the tasks, if you like, that you can potentially automate or farm out or do any number of things with. at this point, I'm going to hand you off to Elliot. Elliot, I think you've got you wanted to show how you'd use
Yeah, let me
this.
jump in. Go back to your formula, Dylan. You know, I really love this formula because it works really well for my mind. What we saw in recruitment is really relevant here because recruitment people seem to be quite entrepreneurial. Anybody who owns a recruitment business likes to have one, two, three. You know, we did similar, but what was really interesting in part of a larger recruitment network is that everybody ran off, either created these GPTs, thought they were the best thing since sliced bread, went and spent hundreds of pounds on this new software, and it was supposedly the best thing since sliced bread, and then something else came along, or something else came along after that. And what really was a game changer within the thought process was the word purpose. If you go into AI and investigate all the tools that are out there, you will spend hours on finding different solutions within recruitment. There are so many things out there. There's hundreds. Okay. The key changing factor is, what is your purpose? If you can find out what you're looking to achieve, then you will be able to find a solution to that, whether that is then a bot, a GPT, an off-the-shelf package. That is really the first step to be able to do that. So if you just flip back to the QR code, Dylan. So the owner of the spreadsheet allowed me to bastardize it, but we effectively pinched the recruitment spreadsheet that we had. And we wanted to use this as a bit of a framework to allow you guys to start. The key thing I wanted you guys to come out of here was to have some ideas of where you could go and actually turn all the noise around AI into actual applications that you could do. Now, key thing is, bringing it to the ground, you've got to find your purpose. You've got to find your problem. And this spreadsheet will allow you to do that. It'll just allow you to list out as many things that you feel that you can change within the construction process within your business, because every business is different. Your business is different to the next. What you can find that may or may not be able to be upskilled within using either an AI created solution, or whether we can utilize an off-the-shelf package to be able to turn your idea into a reality. So alongside this, Dylan, I'm right in saying, I don't know if you want to kick on to the next slides, but if you complete and you file back sort of ideas or where you want to change within the construction process, are you happy to offer some time to the guys? Is that what you said?
Yeah,
Putting
100%.
words in
Yeah,
your
we
mouth
can
a little bit.
absolutely. That's cool. Yeah, we can do like a half-hour call, no problem at all, and we can look at what's in the realm of the possible. So it's just a matter of scan that QR code, download the sheet, fill it out, and we can have a chat about it. Sorry, Elliot, I think you've got a Calendly link, have you, to share at some point?
Yeah. What we'd like to do, what the idea was, I've roped Dylan in because I get the privilege of being able to call him when I need him. Okay. I wanted that for my audience and the guys that I work with to be able to do that. So Dylan's kindly agreed that, if you come to him with a problem, if you come to him with what sort of idea you have and how you want to get it, he'll offer 30 minutes of his time that I'll coordinate, I'll organise, and I'll get all sorted so that we can rub you guys in direct with Dylan, allow him to talk through what he can do, what ideas he's got, and actually have some preparation going into that call so that you guys can practically come out with a bespoke solution or something fix that you were looking to mend within your process. So hopefully that'll be helpful anyway.
100%. 100%.
Do you want to bounce on to my slide, Dylan? Because I just wanted to add some, we haven't got a construction company here that can come in and do this because they just don't exist. There's really nobody in the space that I'm seeing that's leading the way within construction, leading the AI sort of upskilling within construction. So look, here's what we did. This is actually my project Automate. This is how many hours we've saved so far. And I'll tell you now, I'm not even halfway through what we can do. The next level of what's coming is fantastic. I'm so excited about what we're seeing around the corner. So far, I put 30 hours on the earlier slide because I wanted to underestimate it. But when I actually did a refresh on my project Automate this morning, it was a minimum of 35 hours I was already saving from changes we've already made, not alone what we've got planned. I wanted to walk you through one example on how I went about it. We took the purpose of being able to get to conversations quicker. One of the things that drags a recruiter down is admin. No recruiter likes to do admin. So we went and we identified all the areas we could do that. We wrote down specific purposes, specific goals that we wanted to achieve. We went through first off ourselves and went through what we could do to achieve that. We spoke to Dylan, we spoke to a couple of other companies, and throughout the process we managed to implement 3 or 4 things that actually came out with a very slick automatic outreach program. Now, all of what I reach out should come out a lot more human than robot. It's there. It's learned my language. It's learned how I speak. It's learned how I communicate. Not only that, but I program into clients, so it's regularly reviewing my clients, looking at the news they're looking at what their website's saying, just to know what they've got talking about. So any outreach, any selling I do is very bespoke to what I do. And for me, it's been revolutionary. It's saved me so many hours during the week. So I just wanted to share that example of what we've done.
Thanks for that, Elliot. I think as well, keep in mind what we were talking about earlier. That where AI is, think about tasks versus processes. Okay, and you won't go far wrong. But all that said, if it's an issue, if it's a problem, there are no bad ideas. Put them in there, because we might be able to do something with it. So it's better to surface these problems rather than not least because, as I say, this is the worst AI is ever going to be in the history of where we are. So it's only going to get better. So as it gets better, it'll be able to tackle more and more problems.
Great. But thanks again for your patience, guys, at the beginning. We're conscious there's 6 minutes left. We've allocated an hour to this. Is there any questions anybody would like to bring to the table? That's all. If you just pop them in the comments, we'll be able to address them. Separately, if you've got to shoot, we can reach out to you separately. If you want to drop me a message on LinkedIn, a few of you have already done so, telling me not to worry about the start. So thanks for that. No, I think we're okay, Dylan. Don't think there's any questions coming through at all.
Fair enough. Well, listen, if you think of any, feel free. These are our contact details here. You can get me on that email. You can message me on LinkedIn if you want to. Those QR codes will take you through to mine and Elliot's respectively. So yeah, feel free to reach out. I'll always try and help people. This is genuinely a passion of mine. I know it's of Elliot's as well. So yeah. I would do this for free. So I'm going to regret that now, aren't
I? Yeah, well, I managed to run 30 minutes out of you for everybody, so I'll try. Don't worry, you know me. I'll be pushing you for more.
We'll edit it out later. It'll be fine.
Lovely.
Right.
Well, thanks for your time on that, Dylan. I really appreciate you setting the. You've given me a real nice platform to build into the audience what AI is doing, how we can translate that into construction. Keen to see what people's problems are now and how really we can utilize that to make all the companies we work with more efficient. So thanks. Appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Pal.
And thanks to everybody else as well. Great to see everybody here, and thanks for bearing with us.
All right. Cheers again.
Cheers now.